Welcome back. You are still watching Good Morning Namibia. Now, as thousands of students prepare to begin the 2026 academic year, many are navigating a new chapter in Namibia's education system. That is, the rollout of the new subsidized tertiary education at public institutions. Now, while this policy is a major milestone, students on the ground say that access to education still comes with its own challenges. From registration fees to accommodation and funding support, the realities remain complex. This is where the Namibia National Students Organization, NANSO, steps in. Through its annual Access to Education campaign, NANSO is working directly with students across campuses to ensure that no one is left behind. Joining us this morning in studio is Victoria Nahungi, the Sports Secretary of NANSO's Khomas Regional Executive Committee. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Namibia, Ms. Nahungi.
Good morning, Jemima. I'm so glad to be here.
No, we're happy to have you. But as students prepare to go back in full swing to university next month in February, what is the focus of this year's Access to Education campaign, particularly at this stage of the academic year?
The focus of the Access to Education campaign, we have 4 key areas. Number 1, we have the access to information. This is to make sure that all learners, students and trainees have access to information about their rights and education policies.
Okay. And with the introduction of the subsidized tertiary education in 2026, what questions or areas of interest are students and families raising most concerns about as we then prepare to enter into this new system?
The families are more concerned about the non-tuition fees, and they are more concerned about the non-tuition fees. They are more concerned about the learners who did not meet the necessary requirements to be able to receive these funds.
You said earlier on that during this time of the year, the campaign is more focused on just awareness around the policy. But because this is a new policy, there are still some parts of it that people are trying to understand how it will work. Yeah. What information do you believe students need the most at this point in time right now?
The information that students need the most at this time is the requirements and the eligibility to be able to be funded. And the biggest challenge that we are facing right now is access to information, because some students the challenges that we are facing right now are access to information, because due to earlier press releases that had a lack of clear and accurate information, it kind of created it had lack of clear and accurate information. This kind of confused most students, because the requirements kept changing. So now I feel like we just need to release there was already an official document released, and NSFAF has already put up the requirements on their websites. So in NANSO, also, we have put up posts on our social media platforms following the announcement from the ministry. So information is online, and the information is out there for the students to access.
Speaking on the eligibility for NSFAF, NANSO has previously spoken about having changes made to the eligibility for NSFAF. What guidance are you offering students around this time when it comes to trying to understand their funding options for this year?
Okay. NANSO, we have the Access to Education campaign, and in this campaign we are helping students apply for NSFAF. We are helping students with registration and all the administration process.
And with starting university, especially for our first year students coming from all across the country. Accommodation is often raised in these discussions when it comes to accessing education as one of the major challenges. How serious is this challenge, and what are students telling you as they are already preparing to take to the queues for registration?
The access to, the accommodation is one of the biggest crises that students are facing right now, because it's very hard, it's very difficult to find a suitable accommodation, and they are very expensive, and this affects the low and middle income households, because some prices go up to as 5,000 Namibian dollars, and with this kind of prices, students are left homeless. Students are left to wander around looking for accommodations due to the high cost. But NANSO is engaging with the ministry to fast track the development of the student village, which will be a long-term solution to these accommodation problems. And it is important for the relevant ministry to fast-track the rent bill to avoid exploitations of students by the landlords, and for students to be able to access affordable and adequate accommodation.
Very interesting points that you raised there, but even with tuition subsidies, there are still other expenses that students need to be mindful of. Accommodation, as we just talked about, there's transport, there's learning materials. How does NANSO approach these conversations when it comes to having to discuss these realities with the students?
With the students, with the new funding, they do offer non-tuition fees for students, and that also includes the accommodation.
And awareness is a key part of your campaign. Coming back to the annual campaign that NANSO has, what are the main, beyond the main areas that you're focusing on, what are the outcomes that you're hoping to see from the campaign this year?
The outcomes, we want to make sure that all students have access to information, to the right information, that all children, all learners, students, trainees have access to accurate information, and that they are practicing their rights for education, and that every learner is sitting in a classroom that is, and every learner is sitting in a classroom and they have all the resources that they need to be able to deliver and complete the curriculum.
Well, Victoria, NANSO has proposed an education levy as a long-term funding idea. At a high level, what problem do you think that this proposal is trying to address?
This proposal is trying to address the fact that free education, or let's say the subsidized tertiary education, should not be a short-term thing. It should go on, it should be long-term, and NANSO advocates for the student levy because NANSO advocates for the student levy. For example, $1 that comes from every profit that is made from natural resources goes to education, and this money is dedicated only to education, for accommodations, for meals, for pocket money for the students. So basically, the education levy is there to make sure that this is long-term and sustained. Make sure that the funding subsidized education is not only short-term, but long-term and sustainable.
Absolutely. And the ministry, as well as NANSO, has tried its best and really done well in trying to communicate clearly to students about how the new rollout of this policy is going to happen. But for students who may feel uncertain as February approaches and as, you know, the academic year is about to start, what advice would you offer and how can NANSO support them to get more clarity?
I just want to tell the students that you are not alone. NANSO is here to help you, to guide you along the way. And our goal is to make the process easier and for the students to only focus on their studies. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to talk to us and share your perspective as well as the work that NANSO is doing at this stage of the academic year.
You're welcome.